Hi, I'm Ed. If you're a manager, you've come to the right place. I'd like to spend the next 10 minutes introducing you to the WSQ MANAGE Report. This report provides insight into your employees' unique work styles and provides you with tailored tips on how to manage each of your people for success. Before we get into the report, let's take a moment to talk about how important your job as a manager actually is. Management is all about empowerment. Your job as a manager is to understand what each of your staff need from you in order to do their jobs well. Put another way, your job as a manager is to help others shine. There are few things as rewarding as seeing others do well. You have the opportunity as a manager to see lots of people grow and flourish in their jobs by providing them with what they need to be empowered to succeed. Let's see what our scientists have found in the research literature when looking at the impact of an empowerment approach. Managers who take an empowerment approach have staff who are more engaged and stay on the job longer. And perhaps most important, these managers are more successful at helping their staff deliver person-centered care, and their residents report a higher quality of life. So great things come from taking an empowerment approach to managing. Your staff are more engaged, they deliver better care, they stay around, and your clients live better lives. The WSQ Manage Report gives you insight and tips for 3 critical areas of managing. The onboarding plan provides you with practical insights for managing your new hires during the first 90 days on the job. This is a critical time in an employee's journey, so we made a section dedicated just to onboarding. The situational management section walks you through how to most effectively relate to your specific staff based on their determined management need. This section works hand in hand with our individual management strategy tool, otherwise referred to as the IMS. The IMS tool helps you determine which management approach will work best for an employee. Once you know that, then you can come to this report to get more employee-specific insights. And the final section gives you more practical tips and ideas for common day-to-day management of your employee. Consult this section when you're wondering about stress tolerance, motivation, and job satisfaction. Now, we all agree that effective onboarding is important. So let's be sure to clarify what it is that makes an onboarding program successful. You see, onboarding needs to be more than just learning policies and procedures. Now don't get me wrong here, these things are important and a necessary element of onboarding. Also necessary is that managers help new employees align their motivations, interests, and work goals with the requirements of the job and of the organization. Doing so helps the new employee take ownership over their new job. Your role as a manager is to facilitate this sense of ownership and then communicate how you are going to help. Without this sense of ownership, it's difficult to keep your people engaged and committed to excellence. You may recall from the Hire Report Day 1 Factor video, of course starring me, that an employee's sense of ownership or level of engagement is directly influenced by 3 factors. These factors include how they adjust to or get to know others, how much they enjoy or are interested in the specific job tasks, and how much they need to adjust or create new work routines. These 3 factors determine how engaged the new staff will become in their new job. Your role as a manager is to know which factors will have the biggest influence in helping your employee take ownership over their new job. So let's take a look at the onboarding plan section of the Manage Report. The onboarding plan section of the Manage Report is organized with these same 3 domains from the Hire Report. As we zoom in, notice that there are 2 bullets in each section. The top bullet point gives you insight into how your employee is likely to behave as it relates to this area. The second includes recommendations about how you can help things go right, how you can empower your new employee. So for this employee, Sarah, we see that acclimating to new culture is a critical factor. As Sarah's manager, this is something I'm going to need to really pay attention to in order to help Sarah accomplish what she needs to accomplish, particularly during this onboarding period. Now, as I mentioned, the top bullet point provides insight about the employee. So as it says here, Sarah has a strong propensity toward being aware of other people's emotions, relies heavily on them in decision making. She's highly sociable, is expressive, and will freely share thoughts and emotions. Now, these are certainly excellent traits in many situations and can likely be an asset to Sarah as she builds relationships with coworkers and clients. These behavioral tendencies also may be a challenge for her, particularly in situations where she needs to be reserved and convey a sense of calm. So the report tells me that as her manager, I can be helpful by providing her with coaching and direction around appropriate workplace interactions, particularly with coworkers or residents who might react strongly to Sarah's personality. The report also provides me a recommendation that I should ensure that she is creating connections, as this is something that's going to be important for Sarah. So maybe you're wondering, why is this such a big deal anyway? Can't you just come in and get to know people like the rest of us do? Well, if you did see the Day 1 Factors video, let's take a trip down memory lane and see how Sarah did without this targeted help from her manager. You might recall that Sarah's manager just dove right in with completing tasks on a checklist. He didn't take time to get to know her, and in particular how important it is for Sarah to get to know people early on. Well, it turns out that Sarah's big personality wasn't always well received by her coworkers. And after just a short period of time, Sarah grew too frustrated. She wasn't building relationships, and she eventually started looking for a different job, hoping to find a group of people she liked better. She failed to take ownership over her job, and she probably didn't get the help she needed to be able to do so. So that's why it's important. As managers, it's our job to do what we can to help our staff take ownership over their jobs, to help things go right, to help our employees do what they need to do to get things accomplished. And with the insight from the Manage Report, that's exactly what you can start doing. As Sarah's manager, you can read the tips in her onboarding section and get insight into what specifically you can do to help Sarah's onboarding transition be successful. A key tip for Sarah's manager here was to provide her with coaching around what is expected in her interactions, particularly with clients and residents. Helping her understand the norms of the culture early can help get out in front of potential issues that might come down the road. Using the individualized tips in the onboarding section helps managers get on the same page with the new employee early and start building an effective working alliance from day one. Now that we've discussed how to incorporate the onboarding tips into your process, let's take a look at the next section in the report, which is focused on situational management. Situational management is all about managers empowering employees to be successful by understanding and then providing the management that each person needs. There are 4 approaches to managing: directing, motivating, coaching, and delegating. Each manager tends to default into one of these 4 approaches as they're managing and supervising their staff. Now remember, the notion here is that each employee responds differently to each style, and more importantly, there will be an optimal approach for empowering each individual in a given moment. So if my default way of managing is directing and I'm not making adjustments, I am likely to be meeting the needs of only a quarter of my staff. About 3/4 of my staff simply need something different from me. Just as if motivating is my default way of managing, I'm probably also only getting to about 25% of my staff. So if I'm managing 10 people and I'm not adjusting my approach to empower each individual employee, I'm probably only helping, at the most, 3 of those 10 be successful. Said another way, By not adjusting and individualizing my approach, I'm missing out on connecting with and empowering about 75% of my staff. Now, you can really see how there is clearly a connection between empowerment, engagement, and turnover. But wait, there is hope. With the Manage Report, you can get insight into how to adjust your approach in order to empower each employee to be successful. So let's take a look. To determine which approach will be most helpful to each employee, consider their ability and willingness for the task at hand. Plot ability on the vertical axis, considering whether they have done the task before. What skills, ability, and knowledge do they possess? And is this something that is completely new to them? Then plot willingness on the horizontal axis. How open are they to doing this activity? Are they open to trying? How confident are they in their skills? Are they open to learning? Now, let's take a look at how situational management and the Manage Report work in a practical example. Sarah's manager is having difficulty getting her to do her electronic charting correctly. He defaults towards a directing approach, so he has been providing a lot of direction and telling her exactly how it needs to be done, but it's not working. Let's look at Sarah's Manage Report to see what approach might be most helpful here. First, we plot her ability level with regard to electronic charting. So she has experience, passed her training exercises perfectly, and her manager has observed her doing well with this previously, so let's plot her ability high. Next, we plot her level of willingness with regard to electronic charting. She has expressed disinterest in the task to others and noted that she finds it rather tedious. So let's plot her on the low end of willingness. So based on Sarah's ability and willingness with this task, it looks like motivating is going to be the best approach for empowering Sarah, not directing as her manager has been doing. The text in this section of the report will give you insight into how to best motivate Sarah. It says here, avoid a power struggle and align completion of the task with Sarah's personal goals. So rather than continuing to tell her how to chart, Sarah's manager has a conversation with her about the impact that charting well has on her residents, because he's learned and now knows how important they are to her. She now sees the value of charting correctly as it relates to her residents' quality of life. Her motivation increases and her performance in this area improves. Her manager empowered her to be successful. Well, you can see how helpful the situational management approach is to empowering each staff member. And now there is one last section in the Manage Report to look at. The final section, Management Tips, provides insights and tips in 5 domains to consider when managing this employee over time. The information here will help guide a manager's approach with regard to motivating, engaging, and developing the employee over time. This section can be particularly helpful to reference if you're experiencing a challenge with an employee. In addition, the individual work styles and scores are presented on the following page. These scales give you insight into the behavioral tendencies and patterns of the employee. As you consider a specific issue, you will want to review this page to get a better understanding of how the employee might be approaching the issue. This will help you better take their perspective and more effectively communicate with them. Combined, the 3 sections of the Manage Report provide a roadmap for empowering each employee. Investing in empowering leads to more engaged staff, which leads to satisfied clients and residents, the end goal for all of us. Thanks for taking a closer look at the Manage Report with me. How we manage matters, and the insight and tips in this report help you to empower each staff member to be successful. For a deeper dive on managing and empowering staff, consider our Successful Managers Workshop. Contact us today for more information. And, well, goodbye for now. Happy empowering!